Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome and thanks for being here. How is everyone doing? First off, I want to thank everyone that reached out after last episode, just congratulating me on acquiring that Rodman Purple Auto. To me, it's a grail card for somebody IPC. And I have to say, one of the really cool things in the hobby, is even though we all collect different players, the hobby community rallies around each other, and that's what I love most about it. Anywhere else in life, people are cheering, but deep down they're just like, a lot of people, maybe they're envious or they're really not that happy with you. But in the hobby, like people just listeners out there that just know me and are just truly happy for me to be able to acquire that card. And I feel the same way for other people when I know people talk about a certain card or a certain person, even though I don't collect that person, but when they get to acquire this big card that they've been looking for, I'm super happy for them. I want to reach out and say, man, congratulations. Just rally around each other. Love that about the hobby. On another note here, I think Panini did it to me again. If you remember that countless times I've mentioned the 2021 Panini Black Patrick Mahomes midnight signatures, on-card auto, number to 10, redemption. I've been waiting for over 2 years, and I'm pretty certain I'm never going to see that card. Well, a similar situation has just happened. Last night I was opening 2023 Panini World Cup Women's Soccer. I pulled an Alex Morgan gold auto to 10 redemption card. I would love to own that card. I would love to scratch that little thing in the back and go online and submit it and wait for that card to come. But, I have a feeling it'll never show up. Just because, I know Patrick Mahomes is a lot different than Alex Morgan, right? So she may have more time to go and sign autographs than he does, but it is Panini, and I don't know. I think I might have to try to just sell that redemption card or try to make a trade for the Trinity Rodman equivalent if I can find, hopefully an Alex Morgan collector, someone who PCs Alex Morgan, ends up getting a Rodman equivalent like that autograph to 10. I'd love to make that trade. I'll keep you posted on that, just like I have the Mahomes. And speaking of redemptions, this is a little funnier. I bought a sealed 2011 American Pie hobby box. And yes, there was a redemption in that one too. Now this is a 2011 hobby box. And I open it up and I see the card in there. I'm like, are you kidding me? I didn't even know who it was yet, but I knew as soon as I saw the redemption card, there was no way I was getting this one. But this one, I'll just hold it up, which is just funny. It's a Bret Michaels autograph. So it expired 11/30/2014. So yeah, that was quite a while ago. I emailed Topps and said, hey, it does say on the back that if you don't have that card, it would be a replacement. If I scratched it and mailed it in, and they responded, yeah, no, you're out of luck on that one. We sometimes go, he even said, we sometimes go up to 2 years past redemption. But this is, way too far beyond 2014. So today's episode, I am preparing for the Greater Boston Sports Collectors Club card show at the Shriners Auditorium in Wilmington, Mass. It's just north of Boston. And I'm just going to say, AKA the Shriners show. That sums it up a lot better for me. I was at this, the spring version of this show back in April when I met Mike Tyson there and I got the autograph. with the employee, the 2013 Upper Deck employee PMG card that I had just acquired from the Toronto Expo. Uh, and that was a great day. I mean, I remember that show like it was yesterday. I remember it ended up being one of the biggest buying shows that I was at. I spent more money at that show than I had at any other show, and I purchased a good amount of graded football there in that $300 to $1,200 range, and I broke it all down and, at least 1 or 2 episodes and just talked about, this was the type of inventory I was piling up to bring to the National last year. Um so I was excited about that show. Now I'm getting ready to go back to the same show, but this time it's different. It's a different season, and there's just a different strategy. So I talk about knowing the shows, and knowing the shows is also knowing the time of year you're going to and what is in season and what are you buying and what are you not buying. So getting ready for this show, total different strategy. Like I really had to sit and think through it. I talked last week. I did the collaboration with Rob, sports card therapist, and we talked about going to this show. And when we committed to go, which is going to be this Friday, I started thinking in my mind, what is the strategy? I mean, what am I going to do there? It's a long drive. It's probably almost 5 hours round trip driving, and it's a long way to go if I don't even know what I'm doing there. So I need to put a strategy together. I need to think about what am I doing? I'm going to, spend a whole day on Friday driving and walking this show. What am I going to do there? Is it going to be worth my while? I don't want to show up just saying, yeah, I'm going to a card show, grab my Zion case, grab a bunch of cash and just, go off and hope for the best. If it's a local show, if it's a 20-minute away, 30-minute away, something like that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with going and maybe not having a plan, but going to a show like this that I know is going to be, it's a pretty big show. I know there's going to be a lot of dealers there, some that I know, a lot of big dealers that I know are going to be there. So I know there's going to be a lot of cards there. So I really need to put a strategy together. What am I going to do? Um, so thinking about it, I say, all right, I have a number of shows coming up that I would certainly like to buy some inventory because I really haven't bought much inventory besides hockey. Like right now, the Gillette show that I'm doing in November, which I believe I want to say 3 weeks away, 3 weeks away. Um, the most I have right now for that, I have a little bit of football, but I have mostly hockey, almost a whole case of hockey that I'm going to be putting out at that show because this is the stuff that I had purchased throughout the summer into maybe to the beginning of September. But I haven't purchased any more hockey. That was all the hockey I purchased. I have enough to fill a case. So thinking about going into this show, is there things that I could buy that would make sense to be able to flip at this next show, to buy here at a decent price and move there? And I don't wanna get into this pressured situation where I wanna run around and buy a whole bunch of cars because I just wanna have as much inventory as I can going. I've done this a number of times, and I just find it doesn't work out. Uh, w I talk about and Rob and I talked about this, uh, a week or so ago. Um, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm buying a ton of $50 cards. Even when it comes to my PC, what should I be doing? Should I be buying 10 $50 cards of Trinity Rodman or buying one $500 card? What would make more sense to me? And I think it's the same, as a dealer, like going into this season where the hobby's a little bit different right now. The shows are a little bit different. It's that time of year that, you know, people are looking for deals. Nobody wants to come in to a show and pay full price on anything at all. And I understand that. I understand that from both sides of the table. So I don't want to go out and buy a bunch of cards where I'm going to make very little profit or maybe no profit at all. Um, on a flip. So that doesn't make sense to me to do it that way. So if I'm going to look for cards that I'm going to put in the case to move, they need to make sense. It needs to be at a good price. And I'm okay with only having 1 case or 2 case. I'm okay with not carting a whole carload of stuff off to a show. I'm okay with just putting out a couple cases, putting out the cards that I know make sense to sell, that the price is right. Uh, so when I'm at a show like this and I'm going, I really need to know when I'm looking at a card to say, "Okay, if I can get the card for this, I know I could get somewhere in this amount for it. So this does this make sense to me? Does this make sense to get it?" And if it does, then I can go ahead and make a move on it. But if it doesn't, I can certainly just pass. Strategies continue to change every year, and it really just whatever the demand is in the hobby is, as a dealer, what I need to do out there. I haven't set up. A last show I set up was in August, and here it is November, and that's not like me. I would have set up at a number of other shows, but I had a lot of, as you know, you're along for the ride here with me. I had a lot of stuff going on the last 2 months. Hadn't been really able to set up or get out to shows, and since August, it's changed, right? I mean, I know I see it. I'm going to some of these smaller shows, and I see what's going on these tables, so I know it's changed. I'm looking to buy some raw cards that I can grade, because now's a good time that, you can start buying some raw cards. If anything that really makes sense and looks gradable, right, to buy into now, because it's this time of year. If I can send a 20, 30, 40, 50 card order off to PSA, I'm not in a hurry to get it back, because I'm probably, whatever I'm buying now or I'm going to be grading now, I should say not buying now, but grading now. It's going to be sold in the new year. It's going to be stuff that's I'm going to be setting up in 2024, that I'm going to be putting out January, February, March, things like that. Some of the stuff that I'll buy here, you know, I want it to be, I don't want to say evergreen, right? But I want to be able to buy stuff now that say, hey, if I put it in my case now, in 3 weeks and it doesn't sell, it's okay to be in a case in December, and it's okay to be in a case in January or February, because the prices are gonna be the same. I'm always looking for PC cards. Aren't we all, right? Always looking for PC cards. And even though, I PC, Trinity Rodman, some women's soccer and upper deck Mike Tyson cards. I'm always on the lookout for liquid or iconic cards, just something that I think would look good in my case. I talked about this coming out of this little show in Connecticut, a local show in Connecticut last week. I picked up that LeBron James card. I mean, that was perfect. I was able to move in a couple smaller cards, a little bit of cash, but that's a card I can put in the case that it could sell in November, December, or January, and I think, the price is going to stay the same on it regardless of when I sell it. So these are the kind of cards that I'm looking for now. Maybe try to, you know, get some cards in the case that aren't seasonal cards, but that are gonna hold their value, throughout multiple seasons or multiple months. I have a number of lower end cards I'd like to trade up with or without cash into maybe a couples, maybe a single car, just to level up, just to get rid of some of the smaller cards and maybe level up into. And I'm not saying, get rid of, 10 or 15 $100 cars but maybe, if I get rid of, two or 300 or $125 cards, little cash, get into a $400 or $500 card. I'm happy with that, especially if it's a card again that is something I can put right in my case in 3 weeks that'll sell, or it's okay in my case for the next 3 months, and it's gonna be okay to be putting out there, and it's not going to, be dropping off because the season has moved on or is into the middle of the season. I have a few higher end football cards. Uh, I would like to move or trade. Either way, up or down, as long as it makes sense, I don't mind. They are, they're football cards, so this is the time of year for football, but the prices may not be there. I've noticed that, at a number of the shows and the people I've talked to, the higher end cards aren't selling or moving as much. So, dealers may be shying away from, a trade down. It's possible I could trade up into even a bigger card that they're even have even more trouble selling. They'd say, "Oh, maybe I'll take something, a little bit lower and have better option of moving something that's lower." But these cards aren't new to me. I've had these cards. I put these cards out. They've been in my case. I've taken them to shows, and people love the. But I just haven't been able to make deals on them. So here's a bigger venue, right? I'm getting away from the local. I'm getting away from a smaller show, and I'm going to a bigger venue with a lot more dealers, a lot more eyes on it. It's like taking a card, right, and trying to sell it locally, and you can't. And then you put it on eBay, and you've got all kinds of people messaging you or giving you offers just because you've got more eyes on it. So that's what I'm hoping that's going to happen at this show. Any cards I bring, I have to be okay with moving them at current comps or know that, people are going to value them at, 90% or 85%. I have to understand that. I have to know bring in those cards that's what to expect. So I can't be upset. I can't take a card and say, well, the comp on the card is $3,000. I'm going to tell them I want $3,400, and I can't get upset if someone says, hey, I'll give you $2,600 or $2,500 or 27. I can't be upset with that. I'd say, okay, you know what, maybe we can work something out, maybe not. If it makes sense, it does it or it doesn't, but I can't get upset at that. um and I know setting up, as being a dealer and being on both sides and doing on both sides, I have to understand that because there's people that come up to my table and they'll show, hey, are you buying? Of course I am. I look, oh, okay, the last comp on this was $400. Do you take 360 or three? Oh, what are you kidding me? I want 450 for that card, or I want five. I'm like, well, we're way too, and then they get upset about it. But I mean, I understand both sides of it, so I never get it. I have to understand what the values of my cards are, and know that people are going to come in low, and be okay with that, and hopefully, get the price I'm looking for on it. Um, I'm going on Friday, day one. I'm doing this. I started off doing this. We was going to do it with Rob, sports card therapist, which he is something has come up for him. He won't be going, but I've kept that day. I'm going to be, rolling solo, but I kept that day because a number of reasons. One, it's day one, so I'm hoping it's gonna be less crowded at the beginning of the show. So when I get there, being less crowded, able to talk to the dealers, able to make some dealers. The only downside is it's day one, so there may be some dealers saying, "You know what? I need to hold firm on this or hold firm on that." But something I've realized, throughout the shows, and I've done this myself, is people have this idea that, and I hear this all the time, oh, the best time to go is on Sunday because the dealers haven't sold anything. They're giving everything away. Oh, they're just willing to make sales just so they can put some money in their pocket. And that's not really true. I mean, it may be true here and there, now and then, but for the most part, people are not giving their cards away. I've been at a 2-day show that has been slow, and people have come up, and I've gone home. I'm happy to go home with the cards, and most people are. Most people are not going to let their cards go. And I had that idea in my mind because I heard so many people say that, and I used to go to shows on Sundays and never got any better deal than I would have gotten on a Saturday or Friday. It's just that it was less crowded on Sunday than it was Saturday, because Saturday is always the busiest day at a show. Um, but I don't do well in the crowds. I really don't. And it's a long drive for me not to do well in a very crowded area. I could be surprised and show up Friday when the doors open and it could be very crowded and I just have to deal with it. But if I plan ahead and go and think, okay, the doors open at 12 on Friday, if I could be there at 12 on Friday, I should be able to get a good 2 or 3 hours in, before it really starts to get crowded, and then I can get out of Boston, get back home, get on the highway and get back home at a reasonable time, and fight some traffic, but not a lot of traffic. Saturday, I think, is gonna be unbelievably busy up there, and not only that, but busy for traffic as well, not only at the show, but on the highways and the streets and everything else, and, let's face it, Saturdays is just a great day to get a lot of other things done, and I have something else going on Saturday too, so I wouldn't be able to go Saturday. And Sunday would be a day to go, but Sundays I'm recording a podcast. Sundays I'm doing my fantasy football. I'm watching football on Sunday. It's what I like to do. So now that's a little Sunday's done for me too. So Friday's the day. And again, I'm hoping for me it's less crowded and definitely hopefully I can make some good deals. I think it's so important to make a plan before a show like this just to keep on track. At the very least, right? At the very least, you have that little voice on your shoulder reminding you of what the initial plan was. You don't have to stick to it, and some of us don't. We show up and it's happened to all of us. We're like, "We're going in. I'm only gonna buy this. I'm only gonna spend my money on this." And you walk up to a table and you're like, "Oh my God, I never thought I was gonna see this card ever again." And then you go all in. It happens, right? I understand that. But at least if you have a plan, you've got to me, right? For me, that little voice on my shoulder reminding me, and I'm talking to you about it. So not only have I thought about this and I put the thought there, right? Now I'm talking to you about it. So I've discussed it again. And then I make notes before I go. There's a number of different cards, maybe some iconic cards. I say, look, if I could find this card, this would be the price I'd like to pay because we know you go to a big show like this, you're bound to see just about any card there. And I'm going to see cards that I didn't even think I would see too. And I'll probably have to look up. But what I'm trying to do for myself is to know as many current comps as possible. So when I show up, I know exactly what I don't want to be up there pulling out the phone and going through and going through. I want to say, hey, like I do as being a dealer. When somebody says, "Oh, what are you asking for that?" I said, "Well, I'm asking 200. I know the last one sold for 220. There was two sales recently, one for 225, one for 217, and then I know what I'm talking about. I'm rolling out these prices and I know what's going on. I don't want to be that guy on the other side of the table too. I want to know because if I'm pulling up and I'm looking at a card, right, I don't want to waste time. If I know I need to be around 200 on a card and somebody's got it at 300 or 325, it's probably pretty hard. They're going to get down to 200. But if it's a card I really want, I would just say, I you may be a little high on that card. You have room on it. Like I'm looking to be into that card for blah blah. And a lot of times people might say, "Oh yeah, I've had this price. I haven't even changed the price. I haven't checked this recently," or something like that. So give them the benefit of the doubt. You could say it, but you have to have a plan and just try to keep on track with it, and having that little voice to remind you of your initial plan I think sometimes helps, being able to hit a bigger show like this and, you know, be as productive as possible and price my own cards, right? So there's another thing too. And I love when I'm set up as a dealer and people say, "Are you buying?" And they open their case up and they've got people have prices on and they're so high and they're like, "Well, just ignore those prices." But I'm literally going to put prices on my cards too because we don't need to if a dealer is looking at my cards, I just want him to know where I need to be. It doesn't need to be a big secret, right? I don't need to be like, "Oh, what do you think? What do you want to?" I mean, if he's a decent dealer, he knows what's going on, and he kind of knows where I want to be. And I tell people too, like I set up at shows too, so a lot of the stuff is just priced that way. But these prices right here, where I need to be on some of these cards. So, they'll get an idea. And again, if it's not going to work out, it's fine. I can move on. I'm not wasting little time. There's no one thing I hate. One thing I hate is going and start talking to somebody and they're looking and they're putting all these cards aside and they're like, "Oh, I like this card. I like that card." And all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, they've got $3,000 in cards in front of them. And they're like, "Well, I'm thinking like 1,000." And I'm like, "Well, wait, what?" So I like to put all, the prices on the cards when I show up, and then people know. People know what I'm looking for, and we can cut to the chase on it. If they're interested and that price looks good, maybe we can make a deal on it. I don't expect to sell a lot of cards when I go to shows like this because I would rather just put those cards in my case at the next show that that I go to, right? So I I think it's important if we're looking for specific cards at a show that you know exactly what you wanna pay, um, and what you're willing to pay for those cards too, because we can get a lot to the, we can cut to the chase a lot quicker, on my own cards and the cards you're looking for. Um, it may sound simple. I mean, I know it probably sounds simple, but if you go with a game plan, things usually work out better. That's what I found. When I first started going to shows, uh, before I was even setting up, like, I didn't know how to put a game plan together because I didn't know what I was looking for. I really didn't know what my PC was. I just knew I wanted to be back in the hobby. I knew what I liked. I was thinking these were my PC, and then I see those over there, and I think those are my PC, and then next thing you know, I've got 5 PCs going, and I'm spreading myself thin. Um, and I think it's probably just hobby maturity, right? As we grow in the hobby, especially for those who jumped back in, pre-pandemic or during the pandemic, and that we're still here, we stayed here. We've matured, right? It's hobby maturity. And you know, if I go back, even when I started this podcast and I go back and listen to some of the things I talked about in season one and the first handful of episodes, and what I'm talking about now, you could see the maturity there. You could see, as a teacher, how I was learning and learning and learning and just getting better and getting better and getting better. And I'm still learning and I'm still getting better. And I'm able to bring these tidbits and these lessons to you guys, every week. That's Friday is this Shriners is not my only show this weekend, believe it or not. On Saturday, I'm heading to Enfield for a local monthly show. Shout out to Alex at Ideal Cards. This is his show. It's a great show, great group of dealers. They just expanded it. It used to be one floor, now it's two floors. So if you're up in this area, definitely I would always recommend hitting that show. It's always a great show. I love going to that show. And the last time I was there, I talked to a dealer about some cards that I had, some raw hockey cards that he was really interested in. We planned on doing a deal at the next show. I think it was in September. But because things happen with me, I haven't been able to get back to that show for one reason or another. So we've just kept in contact. I dug those cards out, messaged him this week and said, "Hey, I've got those cards. Are you going to be at the show?" 100% he's there. So going to go up there. There's another plan put in place. I'm going to go up. That show's a little bit further away for me. It's like a 35-minute drive or so to that show, but still not very far at all. So I put a plan in place for there, and I'm bringing those cards. I get a deal done with him, and I can go hang out with some of the other dealers, maybe make some deals there too. So it's going to be a good weekend for me, a good hobby weekend for me with the two shows coming up. And I'm going to be back Sunday with a recap episode of both shows and hopefully recapping and showing some deals that I've gotten done uh, at these two shows. So I want to say good luck to me, right? Hopefully it works out well. But I want to thank everyone here for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.